Donald Trump is instantly folding in these talks with Iran. Donald Trump talked a big game. He said, we're putting a blockade all over the Persian Gulf. This is how we're going to threaten and punish Iran. And then Chinese tankers just went right past the blockade. And then Donald Trump is still ranting and raving like a lunatic after his so-called blockade collapsed. You have CENTCOM bragging, we have 10,000 members of the military enforcing this blockade. Yeah, but like the Chinese tankers are going right around it, and all you're doing is causing more economic harm by preventing ships from getting into the Strait of Hormuz. You have the Iranian social media accounts mocking Donald Trump right now. They're writing, the Strait of Hormuz isn't social media. If someone blocks you, you can't just block them back. Also, Iranian social media is posting this, mocking Donald Trump. I won. It appears someone is speaking in his sleep. Iranian social media accounts also are posting, if you had said before the war that some Europeans would choose Iran over Trump, they would possibly recommend you a psychiatric evaluation. It's worth building up this right stance. Now, Donald Trump is saying, don't worry, we're going to have talks with Iran. We're going to continue our negotiations. Why? Donald Trump wants to manipulate the markets. And so after threatening a blockade and that this is going to make Iran surrender, Iran's like, no, we're not going to flinch at all. Donald Trump's like, let's do it again, but can we do it in Geneva or Riyadh? Or can we do it, I don't know, at some other location other than Pakistan? And Iran's like, nope. We're going to do it in Pakistan because otherwise it poses a security threat to us. Iran also is like, you're going to have to agree that the United States will let us enrich uranium again. Now, we may delay the enrichment for 5 years or 15 years, but you have to agree to let us enrich uranium. And the Trump regime's like, want to do it in like 20 years? And Iran's like, no, we'll do it in 5 years. We'll enrich uranium again. And so now apparently the negotiations have moved away from getting rid of the Islamic Republic's ballistic missiles and the regime change and all of these things, basically. And I guess Iran, in some way, shape, or form, will always continue now to control the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of these negotiations. So now what we're talking about is a much worse version of the Obama deal back from a decade ago, like a more terrible version that is far stronger for Iran. Well, they'll get to enrich uranium at some point in time in the future. Even Mark Levin, who's like Donald Trump's biggest advocate for everything, his biggest propagandist, I should say, says, if reports of a 20-year ban on Iran's enrichment are accurate, and I doubt it, that would be a terrible concession. There's no need for any concessions. The Iranian regime will collapse if we keep the pressure on. Just keep the pressure on. They're going to collapse, everybody. And Iran's like, you know what we also want? $260 billion right now in reparations, which we intend to either take from you as part of these negotiations, or we're certainly going to recoup them from profits from the Strait of Hormuz. So in some shape or form, the Strait of Hormuz profits to Iran, with the first $260 million going to them, will be reparations. They want it to be paid, though, directly from the United States and its Arab nation neighbors, and it seems the U.S. is likely going to concede in some form or fashion on that as well. So you remember when Trump and MAGA were like mocking Obama, like, you gave up $1 billion in cash on a plane, which didn't go down, by the way. I think it was just unfreezing certain amount of assets as part of a comprehensive negotiation. But you put $1 billion in cash on an airplane. Okay, well, you, Trump regime, have already given Iran tens of billions of dollars to date already to the Islamic Republic in the form of sanctions relief, because Iranian oil now does not have sanctions on it. Same thing, by the way, with Russia. The Trump regime removed all sanctions on Russian oil as well. And now you're considering $270 billion. The art of the deal, Donald. The art of the deal. I mean, it's the dumbest deal maker in the world. I mean, just think about what's going on in the world as well right now. I'll just give you another data point, right? So Kim Jong-un is out there testing all of these different missiles. And not only is he testing the missiles, he's doing like these live broadcast reality show style things with Kim Jong-un, bragging right now about his nuclear weapons. And then as he's launching all of these missiles, bragging about the capability of his nuclear missiles to basically hit anywhere in the world. But see, the art of the Trump deal is you talk a tough game, then you allow someone like Kim Jong-un to build up his nuclear arsenal. And then when he starts bragging about it and talking about all of the nuclear weapons he has and how North Korea is a nuclear power and starts testing the ballistic missiles, we just pretend it doesn't exist. Like a miracle. It's all going to go away. Just pretend it doesn't exist. Let's talk about transgender athletes, or let's talk about bathrooms, or let's blame things on migrants. Nothing to see here over folks over here with North Korea or anything else that's going on. I mean, that is the Trump regime way. Oh, I should mention as well, Iran this morning. This is how scared they are of the Trump regime. Their social media folks who have been releasing these Lego style videos just released a video on Melania, apparently, that they're calling Epstein Queen. And then the lyrics are Epstein Queen, Epstein Queen. I'm just going to show you 4 seconds of this thing, okay? Just because this parody is ridiculous. Here, just play this clip right here.
Epstein Queen, Epstein Queen.
Anyway, going back to some of the data. So going back to some of the data that we have this morning, we learned that U.S. March PPI, that's the producer price index inflation, kind of the wholesale prices, is now up to 4%. Its highest since February 2023. Core PPI inflation was unchanged at 3.8%, also the highest since February of 2023. We are now officially seeing inflation metrics in the U.S. that are 4% or higher, folks. Inflation is back, but if you watch the Trump regime social media accounts today, they're bragging about this. Inflation's coming in lower than expected. Y'all said you were going to get rid of it. Y'all said that on day one, prices were going to go down. Things were going to be great. It was going to be amazing. But here's how they're talking about it on state regime media, which calls itself Fox. They go, gosh, everything's just so expensive. You think? Here, play this clip.
Let me think. Gosh, everything is so expensive. And what happens when you have a child is no longer you buying things for yourself. Right. Everything goes to that child, and you think about them constantly.
And here's Donald Trump's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett's like, yeah, it's frustrating, very frustrating at the pump, but the oil companies are making a lot of money, so that's pretty good. Play this clip.
While it's very frustrating to go to the pump and see what the price of gasoline looks like, that the benefit for oil producers and workers in those industries is significant enough that the GDP effect in the U.S. is much smaller.
You also had this other Trump regime official, Todd Blanche, who's now the acting attorney general as Congress returns. He's like, we ain't doing anything more. This is what their big announcement was today. We ain't doing anything more with the Epstein files at all. Nothing to do here with the Epstein. We've turned over all of the Epstein files already. Here, play this clip.
I know that you have the authority to go ahead and release more, do you not? And you have the authority to go to Congress, perhaps?
No, we have released everything. So listen, we reviewed 6 million pieces of paper. What we released was anything associated with the Epstein files. So there, we are not sitting on a single piece of paper. Nothing that should be released. If we find something else tomorrow, we'll release it. I don't anticipate we will. So the misguided assumption that there is more to be released is because we reviewed millions and millions of pages within the department, millions of which had nothing to do with Epstein. So it's not as if we looked at a document and said, we're not going to release that. If we didn't release it, it's because it was not responsive to the law and therefore not part of the Epstein files.
Donald Trump posting on social media this morning the following: Europe is desperate for energy, and yet the United Kingdom refuses to open North Sea oil, one of the greatest fields in the world. Tragic. Aberdeen should be booming. Norway sells its North Sea oil to the UK at double the price. They are making a fortune. region. UK, which is better situated on the North Sea for purposes of energy than Norway, should drill, baby, drill. It's absolutely crazy that they don't. And no more windmills. DJT. Also, he called into different media outlets this morning, and he's been attacking Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. And he's like, Meloni just says Italy doesn't want to get involved in our wars, doesn't want to get involved in the Hormuz, even though Italy gets its oil from there, even though America is very important to Italy. She doesn't think Italy should be involved. She thinks America should do the work for her. And he's like, you know, she's unacceptable. She's the one who's unacceptable. She shouldn't criticize me for talking about Pope Leo XIV. She doesn't care if Iran has nuclear weapons. I thought she had the courage, but she doesn't have the courage at all. That's what Donald Trump's been saying to different media outlets. Also, here's what Donald Trump said about NATO. I mean, isn't this guy just the biggest pathetic person in the world? While he was making his media calls this morning, he goes, I asked NATO, send whatever they want. But they don't want to because NATO is a paper tiger. You want to talk about a paper tiger, Donald? You talk a big game. I'm obliterating. I'm destroying everything. Regime change. We're wiping them out. They're decimated. They're not, Donald. Iran's actually stronger than ever. You blew up a bunch of bridges. You killed a bunch of little girls in elementary schools with your war crimes. Yeah, you blew up a bunch of universities and infrastructure in Iran. And yes, you did attack a lot of Iran's conventional army, but they still have their fast boats and they're controlling the Strait of Hormuz. They still have got about half of their ballistic missile arsenal. They still got about half of their FPV drones and Shahid drones, if not more, and they are ramping up the production there right now. So, yes, Donald, and when you say you're going to do a blockade, like we're doing a blockade of Cuba, nobody's getting through, America, yeah. And then Russia sends its tanker. Excuse me, coming through, Vladimir Putin here, going to Cuba. Donald Trump's like, okay, come on in, Putin. Yeah, real strong. That's what a paper tiger is, Donald, by definition. Or what about when you go, we're doing a blockade of the Persian Gulf, a big, strong, powerful blockade. And then China's like, we're going to send a Malawian flagged Chinese tanker called the Rich Starry. We're going to bring it right through and we're going to just ignore your blockade. What are you going to do about it, Donald? Nothing. That's what's called a paper tiger. Iran sees your weakness. Our former allies see your weakness. The Arab nations see your weakness. By the way, why do you think Europe leaders, like right now, you got Pedro Sanchez of Spain. Why do you think he's meeting with Xi Jinping right now, right? Why do you think the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi right now is meeting with Xi Jinping right now? You think it might be because the American security umbrella has collapsed under your weak and pathetic leadership while you cover up child sex trafficking rings, while Iran is mocking you and your family? You see what's going on here? Well, that's what I got for my morning report. Hit subscribe. You may think you are all subscribed, but double check. Let's get to 7 million subscribers together. Will you do me a favor this morning as well? One of the best ways you can help this network, for real, tell 10 people you know about this video. Send it in text messages to people you know. Say, give the MeidasTouch Network a try. You want to see why it's growing so fast? And show them this specific video of fact-based, receipt-based, play the clip reporting. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. This has been your morning.